Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at etrailer, and today we're taking a look at the Roadmaster Reflex steering stabilizer. A steering stabilizer is a pretty simple method of making sure that your wheels track straight, and it's accomplished by mounting up to the tie rod. That way when you steer, it's either going to compress the spring or bring it back to center by pulling it. So no matter which way you turn, it's going to want to always bring it back to that center, so that way it's tracking straight. So when you make those turns, or if you're hitting any crosswinds, big bumps, or uneven roads, that steering wheel is going to kind of track straight forward for you, and that way you're not having to really fight the wheel, which is going to reduce road fatigue and white knuckling while driving your RV. You're going to be taking off the nuts on your U-bolts, so that can be a little bit tricky depending on how old your RV is or what kind of conditions you drive in, but this plate bolts up. It's meant to mount up to this nice and easy. You'll use those factory nuts again, and then we just bolt up our shock, bolt down our bracket, and that's pretty much it. So it's pretty easy to do. You can do this on the ground to get this installed. It's going to get a little bit tight when you start using torque wrenches and things along those lines, but the simple concept of it is really just getting your two brackets mounted up, bolting everything together, and that's it. This heavy duty shock and spring combo are going to absorb those turns and really take that energy and want to bring that back. So when driving, you're really not fighting against it. It wants to center, but it just firms up the steering feel in a really nice way. It's going to just feel a little bit more confident while driving. So as you turn and your tie rods are moving, it'll either compress or it's going to pull this back in. Either way, it's going to bring you back to that center point where you set it. When I see the biggest difference after installing a steering stabilizer on an RV, it mostly comes down to these sharp turns here. So as I kind of make a loop here and I want to head straight, normally you can let the steering wheel go, and you can see we're still kind of cutting off to a left, whereas the steering stabilizer is going to bring it back to a straight line, which translates to less maneuvering of the wheel in tight spaces going back and forth. But also once you're out on the highway, that translates to just tracking a little bit straighter. You'll a lot of times feel a little bit more resistance in the steering wheel in a good way, because it is going to want to track straight. So that way if you do make a turn, you let go, it'll kind of bring you back to that center. So it just really makes to where fighting the steering wheel or the rotations like we see right here, it makes it a lot easier when it does bring it back. Now I've done quite a few of these installations and they really do make a difference right out the gate. We take this out on our test course to do a before and after, and every time I always kind of end up walking away saying that's a no-brainer to add. It just really cuts down on really having to work the wheel. It does a lot of the work for you, and it just makes for a little bit more confident sitting back in the seat driving. So we're going to take this back out and see the difference this one makes. Now back out on our test course, we're going to make some turns and see how it affects it. So pretty close immediately of pulling this out of the bay. I could tell just as I was turning the steering wheel to back it out, it is a stiffer feel, but as I mentioned, it's much better. In fact, a lot of times some of the cars with really good handling have a heavy steering feel. You get a little bit more input. It's not as loosey-goosey, which is a good thing. So as I make this turn, before I let go of the steering wheel, this way, when I let go of it, it's going to start tracking straight immediately. So let's go down this straight road, make sure we have it properly aligned. Everything's tracking straight here. We're going to make another big loop. And just the input here alone from the steering wheel, as I make a turn, it does, you may not see right away that the steering wheel is going exactly back to normal, but when I make this turn, I'll let go of the steering wheel, and that's where it's going to start to kind of counter steer for you, which is really nice. Pretty sharp turn here, and then as I'm heading straight, whew, it definitely brings it back to center a lot quicker than before. It's not lingering, still kind of cutting over to the side. It really does just put it straight and get you going exactly where you need to go ahead. And that was a look at the Roadmaster Reflex steering stabilizer.